The human brain is a universe within us, and understanding its complex geography is a grand adventure of our time, said David Van Essen. Also, the relationship between the brain and spirituality has been studied by several different fields. And we are also on this very fascinating exploration with our esteemed guest, Dr. Ashish Pradhan, who is a neurologist and a meditation practitioner and coach. So, without any delay, I would like to welcome Dr. Ashish on the program. Welcome, Doctor. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks, Monica. Glad to see you again.
Yeah, it's really nice always talking to you. You bring such wealth of information, and I am really looking forward to talking to you about the sixth energy center today. And definitely, we would like to start with that question of, the relationship between the sixth energy center and the autonomic nervous system, and what organs this center controls.
Sure. So, as we have seen in the during as part of this series, the first five energy centers, the way the energy center potentially looks after the plexuses and through the plexuses, essentially of the autonomic nervous system, has influence over various organs within the body. So today we are going to talk about again a very, very important, again a critical center. So this is the sixth energy center, the so-called Agya Chakra. A lot has been written about it in multiple sort of spiritual treatises and so on and so forth. It is also referred to as the third eye in spirituality. Uh, the Agya Chakra basically, or the sixth energy center, is as all of these energy centers go. It is very, very subtle. Uh, it is located at a midpoint, one might say, if we draw a line, say, from the center of the forehead right to the back, and from the top of our ears, maybe as it crosses, maybe at that sort of intersection, deep within our brain. And the physical manifestation of this energy center, not the energy center itself, but the manifestation of this could be in the form of the optic chiasma. What is the optic chiasma? So we have our eyes, and we have the retina that is at the back of the eye, that is the back end. And from the retina you have nerves, and from the nerves they have their bodies. The bodies form the axons. Basically they form the nerves, the bodies, and that forms what is called as the optic nerve. The optic nerve is essentially a collection of these axons, or these long tails. And the optic nerves from each, the left and the right eye, they go back and they cross over. That's called the optic chiasma. And they cross over, and then they go and they terminate at the back of the brain in what is called as the occipital cortex. So the impulses from the eye, basically the light that goes in through our pupils, falls on the retina, creates a chemical reaction, and that impulse travels back. And through the various connections that it has, it interprets vision, or what it is that we are saying. So the physical manifestation is considered to be the optic chiasma, but that's not the energy center. So certainly this energy center first and foremost controls our eyes, our vision in terms of what it sees, what it interprets. So that's the first part. The second organ that this energy center relates to is the master or sort of conductor of the orchestra. If you see a big philharmonic kind of an orchestra, you have an orchestra conductor, and that conductor is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a very small organ situated right in the middle of our brain, literally, and we'll talk more about it also in the context of the limbic system, which is the seven so-called energy center complex. Uh, but the hypothalamus is an organ that sits at the crossroads between the endocrine system and the nervous system. So it secretes a number of hormones, And these hormones in turn control other endocrine organs, such as the pituitary, such as the adrenal cortex, such as the male and the female reproductive and endocrine systems that give rise to the ovarian cycle or the spermatogenesis in males, ovarian cycles in females. So the hypothalamus basically has 4 or 5 key functions. And the first one is to maintain the internal homeostasis by regulating the temperature and the basic biological functions through the autonomic nervous system. So that includes our blood pressure, that includes our thirst, our hunger or our appetite. It controls our urges, and of course, it regulates our temperature, body temperature as well. So it has these endocrine functions through the hormones that it secretes, and it also controls the autonomic nervous system by way of these secretions. So, say for example, on the adrenal cortex secretes cortisol, and that is our stress hormone. So, flight and fight reactions, for example, which is a very well-known response within human physiology. You see something that is a grave danger, you run away from it, or if it is something you want to overcome, you fight it. So, flight or fight reactions. So, all of these are controlled through this hormonal system. And hormonal system is, again, it receives, because it receives inputs, the hypothalamus receives inputs from multiple nervous systems. And that's how it allows itself, it is enabled to control the functioning of the body. And that hypothalamus is believed to be under the control of this sixth energy center. So you can say that the sixth energy center practically is the lord and master or mistress of the autonomic nervous system. So as part of this series, we have now reached a point where we talk about the master control of this entire orchestra, and that is the hypothalamus. So that is that is a very important organ that this center refers to. The third organ that we would want to probably also consider in this context is the pineal gland. The pineal gland is a very, very small body that also sits very close to the hypothalamus. And this pineal body basically secretes a hormone we're all familiar with. It's called melatonin. And melatonin basically controls our sleep cycle. It's extremely important. All of us who have crossed time zones know what jet lag feels like, and everybody knows that it's because of the circadian rhythm, or this 24-hour sleep cycle rhythm that we have is controlled by melatonin. As the sun goes down, as the light goes down, basically melatonin secretion starts going up, and that is controlled by the pineal gland. So within that framework, if we go back to the Sahaj subtle system, you have the left side, which is the so-called passive side. You have the right side, the so-called active side, that we have in the subtle, that we have within our body, and then of course the evolutionary side, which is the central channel. So you can see how there is a beautiful correlation between the function of the hypothalamus by regulating the body's requirements. In the morning, we feel hungry. At night, not so much after we have had the day. The core body temperature actually starts falling down towards the evening, and it reaches its lowest temperature at night, which is why we sleep better in relatively cooler environments. If it's very hot, we can't sleep very well. And it is also believed that when the body temperature starts going down, it also helps us to, it starts inducing the state that we call sleep, that we just kind of lie down and go to sleep. So it is through this energy center we can say that by monitoring our internal body through the autonomic nervous system, by managing our sleep cycle, it manages our both passive behavior such as sleep or maybe less of an active side, but also the passive side, but also the active side, which happens during the daytime when melatonin levels basically are very low. So it is this magnificently managed control extremely finely done by regulation of the nervous system through these two or three organs that we can say relate to the sixth energy center.
And I think as layman, we seldom get a chance to understand or admire, these kind of like complex communications, rhythms, and patterns that have been designed into us. But this is really very, very wonderful information, Dr. Rashish. So I think now we would like to know the evolutionary significance and where this center is most likely located.
So this center is, hypothalamus basically, as you can imagine, the regulation of the body of an organism was a requirement from an evolutionary point of view. It's kind of putting maybe the cart before the horse or effect before the cause. But even as we start looking at, again, the aquatic life forms and then amphibians and the early terrestrials, so on and so forth, as the bodies became more complex, multicellular, with more and more defined organ systems, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, digestive system, they needed a kind of a master control over that organism so as to survive. If any of these systems are not well controlled, it can go out of whack, and then that starts creating its own issues. So, which is why the particularly the hypothalamus is believed that hypothalamic-like nuclei, like any organ in the brain, is basically like anything else. It's just a group of cells. So anything in the brain is comprised of cells that are called as neurons. The hypothalamic neurons, maybe not the organ, but the neurons have been found in very primitive life forms as well. So that is the evolutionary relevance of this particular energy center, if you will, as manifest through the existence of the anatomical organ, which is manifest, say, in vertebrates and particularly, of course, in the Homo sapiens as hypothalamus. So its evolutionary significance is profound. Without the hypothalamus or a hypothalamic-like body controlling the entirety of our vegetative functions, which is why we don't have to think about how many times our heart has to beat. We don't have to think what should be the force of the digestive propulsive forces. How many times should we breathe? What is the extent of our breathing? All of these functions, that is circulatory system, or respiratory system, or digestive system, and the thousands and thousands of processes in the body that are controlled, that needed that sort of you can think of this as almost like a fly-by-wire technology that exists now in modern aircraft, where the pilot doesn't really have to think, just switches on as a master computer that takes over, and on a second to second, not even on a minute to minute, just as the aircraft maintains its altitude, its speed, its direction. That's exactly how the hypothalamus basically functions. And that is its evolutionary significance. It has evolved to allow us to survive without having to put in a lot of cognitive effort, conscious effort into our survival. So that's basically its evolutionary importance. So most likely it is located again just maybe below the optic chiasma that we spoke about, and it is again very difficult to maybe just pinpoint because it is exists in the form of energy. We discussed that in one of the first episodes. So these are not like these don't exist in the state of matter, but it's most likely situated, as we said. We draw a straight line from the middle of our forehead, right, and at the back, and then maybe from across from the top of our ears, and basically where these two lines will intersect somewhere in the middle, just below the optic chiasma, in that area is where, and near the hypothalamus is probably where this energy center is located.
I really like the analogies that you use to explain complex concepts because if we do not have a lot of science background, it just gets so much easier for us to just understand that whole concept. That's very, very beautifully explained, Doctor. So now when we come to the functioning of the center, how does it relate to, the maintenance of balance within a human being? And is there, is this related to a direct control of actions, emotions, the active passive aspects of human behavior?
Absolutely. So as we said, the neuroendocrine system, there's so much of literature on stress and stress management and what causes stress, and whether stress is even a physiologically good thing to have, because there is something called as eustress, distress, so on and so forth. But when we look at the normal physiologic functioning of a human being, it comprises basically a minute to minute or even a second to second awareness of our own selves as well as that of our surroundings. And it brings into focus our attention, our memories, and we'll talk about this, of course, in the next episode as well. But our memories, attention, our awareness, our place within the universe around us. So whether it is our societies, whether it is our families, whether it is our workplaces, and in this minute to minute, literally existential sort of environment, we react, we respond, and we respond in a way that is a very complex, integral, if you will, of who we are as individuals. And who we are as individuals is again a function of our collective past, our individual past, our cultures, our ethnic identities, our languages, our geographies, where we come from, the way we were raised. Not everybody is raised the same. So whoever we are, this huge amalgam of our identity, of our memories, of our conditionings, all are governed by basically what constitutes the brain. And within the brain, it is this energy center that plays a particular role because it is also related to the notion of ego and superego. And we have these two institutions. There are other videos within the Sahaj universe that speak to it. But it gives you that sense of I-ness versus the others. And that is where this energy center comes into play. So in individuals who are well balanced, balanced is more of a metaphorical term, more of a spiritual term. But individuals who do not react unnecessarily or excessively, if you see a cat and you start running in the opposite direction, that's a problem. If you see a tiger and you start running in the opposite direction, not a problem. Why? Because although they both belong to the cat family, those are two very different situations. So that is where this center comes into play. And if there are individuals who react sort of in a very different way in these kinds of situations, those are very generic situations, very obvious ones, but that is what defines a healthy state of this energy center versus not. And therefore, it is very important to keep this energy center in a very healthy state, or might say in a balanced state, by developing through the Sahaj meditation process what we call a balanced, forgiving, and a charitably disposed personality. Because that way, as you can now see, the function of the hypothalamus, it does not have to secrete these hormones that will raise your blood pressure, that will raise your heart rate, that will allow you to react more aggressively to an environment which you perceive to be aggressive, which may not be aggressive, which may not be threatening to you. So life then becomes more a matter of perception rather than reality. And the calibration of one's response to that environment is what defines an individual from being relatively what we call in conventional terms as reactive, immature, to somebody who is, we say, more mature, sagacious. So think of a Lincoln or a Gandhi like personality relative to somebody who is, much more reactive or gets easily ruffled. We just know of some people who are just calm, more composed. They don't react that negatively or excessively. And that is where it kind of comes in, the importance of this center to maintain that balance within us, right action and right behavior. It does not mean we remain constantly passive. It does not mean we remain constantly active. Where is that fine balance? How do you calibrate back to that aircraft? How do you maintain your speed, your altitude, and your course from a, shall we say, an emotional perspective, or from a spiritual perspective, is what this center is really about. And that's why it plays such a vital role in human spirituality.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish, for bringing up that very wonderful point, very relevant point about, the level of reactions that we all may have. And it is for each of us to, just look inside us, look around us to see where we find just giving reactions more than needed. Like you explained with the example of the cat and the tiger, responses to a similar situation or a different situation, how they need to be. But this is something that we are seeing a lot around us on social media and different platforms. So yeah, I mean, anything that you want to add to that, just so that we can be more aware of our surroundings, our environments where we are.
Fabulous. I mean, that is such a great point, Monica, because if we think of our evolution, but we don't have to go back to the aquatic stage. Just about 100 years ago, just about 50 years ago, there was no social media. Television and media did not play such a big role in our lives. Uh, People had a much more quote unquote pastoral lifestyle, certainly pre-industrial societies. But even in post-industrial societies, it was not, that much of a deal. Uh, this influence of media and the environment around us. There were communities, there were neighbors, but with the advent of social media, particularly, life has become very reactive. You are part of some kind of a social media platform, whichever it is, with your friends, with your office colleagues, or neighbors, as the case may be. You read a post about a topic, whether it is political, whether it is social, whether it is cultural, and the brain processes it. And within our brain is a very important neurotransmitter, the number of neurotransmitter. One of them is dopamine. Dopamine is a pleasure giving molecule. Whenever we do or feel something pleasurable, there is a part of our brain called as a substantia nigra that secretes dopamine. Dopamine gives us that high, that rush. And where social media comes in, social media algorithms. I'm not a tech expert, but I saw a couple of documentaries, and they explained it beautifully that there is a full blown understanding of the human nervous system, and particularly of how the dopamine sort of system works to produce that rush. So we are constantly, through algorithms that are designed to generate that rush within us. So we are constantly hooked onto it. We are given content or fed content that are based on these algorithms that grab our attention and hold it. And that is where this center is also where it's damaged the most, because it keeps us on this endless loop. We are essentially like animals that basically are on treadmills, that you're constantly sort of fed that morphine of information, if you will, and that triggers dopamine within us, and that gives us that sense of high, and that high keeps us hooked onto social media. So the Agnya Chakra, or this sixth energy center, probably in the entirety of human civilization, recorded and unrecorded history, and this is not a hyperbole, I genuinely feel it, has never probably been more stressed during social media. And but what is the solution, right? It's easy to identify a problem, but then what is the solution? The solution is that through meditation, we can begin to sort of stay away from that rush. We don't need that rush. You don't need to constantly feel your presence on social media or see what is the latest post out there. Or if you posted something, has somebody read it or not? How many likes have you received or have you not received? So if you have not received anything, no responses, you kind of go down, and then that dopamine rush goes down, you start feeling depressed. And we see this particularly in teenagers, which is why the US Congress is acting very wisely so, to basically try to see if these social media platforms can actually be modulated so as to create, not create mental health issues for susceptible age groups such as teenagers, who can lead to, or its use can lead to extreme ends. So yes, that's a phenomenal point that you raised. And this energy center in particular plays a very critical role in either be susceptible and be influenced by social media, but then through meditative practice such as Sahaj meditation, you can actually maintain a healthy boundary. So nobody's saying here you should not interact with social media, not use social media. Social media is a way of life now. We all have to live with it. The question is how and to what extent.
And I think with what you have shared, it seems like, with this meditation, not only an individual is going to benefit, in the ability to self-regulate themselves, it'll also impact the society at large. Think about it like, if each of us just gets a little bit better in terms of how we react, it's really going to impact the health of the society as well. Well, thank you, Dr. Ashish. Thank you so much for this very wonderful information. And we look forward to speaking to you again soon next time.
Thank you, Monica. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And we would definitely encourage our audiences to follow the guided meditation video by the founder of this meditation, Sri Mataji Nirmala Devi. And do join us next time for yet another exciting conversation with Dr. Ashish Pradhan. Thank you.
Today we are going to understand the center of Agya Chakra, which is placed on the crossing of the optic chiasma. The nerves that supply the eyes go backwards in the opposite direction, and wherever they cross, this subtle center is situated. It has a continuous connection with the other center through the medulla oblongata. This center has got two petals, and this subtle center on one side acts through the eyes, and at the back of the head where you have some protrusion. This is the physical side of this center is. Now the people who talk of the third eye, this is the third eye. Keep your eyes closed. First of all, please put your right hand on your heart. All the time the left hand is towards me. Now, here you have to say, in your heart, with all sincerity, Mother, am I the spirit? Ask the question 3 times in your heart. This is a very fundamental question. Now bring the right hand on to the left hand side of your stomach, in the upper part. Here press it. Now this is the center of your mastery, your guidance, your Guru Tattva as they say. So ask a question, Mother, am I my own master? This is a question to be asked 3 times. Mother, am I my own master? Now, bring your right hand down below, in the lower part of the abdomen. Now, this is the center from which all the divine work is done. All the pure work is done. So to ask 6 times, because this center has got 6 petals. Mother, please give me pure knowledge. 6 times you just ask. As a result of this asking, the Kundalini starts getting awakened. Now, to help the Kundalini rise, you have to cooperate with her. So, please put your right hand on the left hand side in the upper part of your abdomen and press it on the stomach. Now, here you have to say with full confidence to help the Kundalini to rise, Mother, I am my own master. This you have to say 10 times. These are the 10 commandments which you have to say. That, Mother, I am my own master. Now, 10 times with full confidence. Now, please raise your right hand to your heart. Now, here you have to say, again with full confidence, Mother, I am the Spirit. This is the truth. You are the Spirit. But you have to say with full confidence, Mother, I am the Spirit. This you have to say 12 times. Now one has to know that God Almighty is the ocean of love. But above all, He is the ocean of forgiveness. So He forgives. Whatever wrong you do, He forgives. So don't feel guilty and put your right hand across. On the left hand side, in the corner which is made by your neck and your shoulder. Now here you have to say, again with full confidence, 16 times, Mother, I am not guilty. Please say it. Mother, I am not guilty. 16 times. I am not guilty at all. Please say it. Please say it. Very hot. Now raise your hand across on your forehead. And it's a very important center. Here you have to say from your heart, Mother, I forgive everyone. Please say it from your heart. How many times is not the point. Mother, I forgive everyone. Now some would say that it's very difficult to forgive. But it's a myth that we do not forgive or we forgive. We do not do anything in both the cases. But if we don't forgive, then we play into wrong hands. So please say from your heart, Mother, I forgive everyone. Now please take your hand on the back agya, the same center, on the back side of your head and allow your head to rest on it and push it back a little bit. Now here, you have to say, for your satisfaction, because you always feel guilty, that, O Divine, if I have done anything wrong, please forgive me. Please forgive me. From your heart. Stretch your hand fully and put your center of your palm on top of the fontanelle bone area, which was a very soft bone in your childhood. Press it hard. Press hard your scalp. Now you have to move it 7 times, saying one thing, which you have to ask for. Mother, please give us my self-realization, because I cannot force on you. So you have to ask for it. 7 times, press it hard and move it 7 times, very hard. Slowly, saying that.